I get shit done, I have fun, it's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Everyone is actually living a life of abundance. That's what we're going to talk about today. But in the meantime, here's a word from my sponsor. So if you've ever had a question in your business around maybe time, team, money, exit strategy, which could be, what do I do next with the business? Do I expand? Do I succession planning? Could be any one of those. The good news is I'm one of a couple of hundred focal point business coaches around the globe. So if you would like to reach out and have a conversation, ask your question, we'd be happy to have a conversation with you. And by the way, no credit card required. It's a complimentary session. And if I don't have the answer to your question, I can reach out to my community. Some really terrific people. Just hanging out with them a few weeks ago in New Orleans. And it was the first time in a bunch of time that we're able to get together and actually live a mastermind for 3 days and hear best practices. It was brilliant to have some new ideas and new aspirations as a result of that. So if you're looking to get an answer to a business related question, reach out, let us know. At the end of the show, you'll see where you can get a hold of us. I'm excited today to explore everyone is living a life of abundance. I like that. It sounds good to me. I think it's optimistic. I think it's talking about opportunity and possibilities. And that's kind of where I like to hang out. My guest is a mortgage broker extraordinaire. He has an interesting philosophy. His objective in every conversation or every interaction that he has is to impact the person's life in a way that can help them towards a life of abundance. I don't want to wait any longer. Let's bring Keith UT up. Here he is right now.
Hey, Phil.
I prefer you for about the same size as me. Push the wrong button. Hello and welcome, and thank you.
Hey, welcome. Thank you. You know what? Thank you for asking me to be part of a conversation today.
Yeah. I'm always looking for people of a variety of different backgrounds. I don't really mind what industry they're in, even if they're not even an industrialist. I'm curious about people's journeys. And let's start off. We're both in the same city, which is unusual for me. A lot of the time I talk to people from down under, in the UK, across Canada, in the US, a lot of them. But somebody in my own backyard, it's pretty exciting to talk to almost a neighbor.
Excellent. Well, hey, you know what? And it's a beautiful sunny day that we picked. So
yes, that's right.
We got rid of our 19 inches of snow. Well, in the north part of the city, anyways.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard the south hardly got any.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that's the weather. And as we say in Calgary, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes and see what happens.
Right. 4 seasons in a day.
Exactly. So let's start with your journey. How did you get into this mortgage business?
Well, you know what? It really started for me back in 2002. My now wife and I were dating, and we decided we wanted to buy a place together and live together, and see if that was actually going to work. And so we went to the bank to qualify for the mortgage, and the banks, she said, "Well, I can't get your debt servicing to work." I'm like, "Well, how come? That makes no sense." And she said, "Well, because you've got this credit card and you've got this line of credit." And I'm like, "Well, but we owe nothing on the line of credit." She's like, "Yeah, but I have to use the limit on it. I have to calculate a payment on that, even though you don't owe anything on it." I'm like, "Well, the credit card," I'm like, "So if the credit card has a zero balance, do you have to calculate the balance on that?" And she's like, well, no, if the credit card's at zero, then I don't have to use that. And I'm like, well, then we'll just pay the credit card off with the line of credit because you have to use the line of credit anyways, and see if the ratios work. She's like, oh, she's like, well, I think I can do that. I don't see why not. And I'm like, well, try it. So she tried it. The ratios worked, and boom, we bought our first home. And that was kind of the first inclination that, geez, how she's the person at the bank. She's the person we're supposed to know, like, and trust to be able to help guide us and make these decisions. And she didn't know how to find a solution. And so that was the first sort of inclination. And then from there, my wife and I began investing in real estate a few years after that, using the equity from our home and implementing the Smith maneuver on our own, and began investing in real estate, grew our portfolio. And I was working in a job where I was a salaried employee at the University of Calgary, and I wasn't happy. I got to a point where I had outgrown what I was doing there at the time, from the times when I did enjoy it. And then I ended up in 2014 moving on to the realm of private lending. And I was there for just over a year, and we parted ways at the beginning of 2015. And I contacted my mentor and coach advisor, Richard Dolan, and told him what had happened. And he's like, you know what? I got some people for you to talk to. He's like, you need to consider mortgage brokering. So he introduced me to a couple of different people. My current mortgage broker, whose name is Richard Anderson. This gets quite complicated for me because there's Richard and Richard.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then the guy who helps me on some IT stuff, his name is Richard too. So, so just, so I'm just surrounded by
a lot of rich. A lot of rich.
I'm surrounded by rich. We'll put it that way. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. So he introduced me to my brokerage owner that I have now. He's like, yeah, you know what? I think you'd be great at this. And so that was the jumping off point in 2016. It's now been almost just over 6 years. I've been able to reach the top 10% in Canada with Mortgage Alliance and my mortgage volume. And I'm a Smith Maneuver certified professional, a financial life professional, a real estate investment advisor, because of the real estate that we have. And all that learning that I did along the way of getting mortgages for our real estate investment properties, I just brought all of that along for the ride. And I've been part of real estate investing groups as well. So, I heard other mortgage brokers talking and learning from them as well, and just, soaked all that in. And then when I became a mortgage broker, I just put all that out in front and said, you know what, here's what I know I can do to help guide people along.
And that all started with your first transaction at a bank, and you educated them on what they might be able to do and help them serve you better.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess that can happen, right? Obviously, that did happen.
Yeah. And it's, it reinforces what I say now. The banks have a box, right? And they try to fit everyone inside that box, as opposed to me getting the information from the people and figuring out which sandboxes can I place them into, because I don't work with one specific lender. So, okay, here's your story. Here's your situation. Oh, well, maybe this option can work for you. This option. Nope, that doesn't work for you. That doesn't work for you. And being able to put the pieces together. I'm a little bit of a dog with a bone when I work for my clients to find a solution. And, sometimes unique situations, it does take time to find the right solution. But if there's a solution to be had, I will seek it out and find it, just because you're talking, between A and B lenders, you're talking like 40 A and B lenders, and how many different policies does each one have? And sometimes it's, well, this works, but that doesn't. And then it's, well, that works, but that doesn't. And this and that don't work. And so sometimes it's a puzzle sometimes, really trying to put the pieces together.
Yeah, and it's not a straight line, right? I don't know if you've seen that meme or that graphic where success, they show what people hope it is, point A to point B, straight line, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. The reality is it's like, it's all over the place, right?
Yeah. There's the banks want to work with the perfect AAA client and give them a mortgage.
Right.
Right. That's who they're That's who they're targeting is. That's who they want. Anything outside of their that's just a little bit outside their box.
Outside the norm, right?
Yeah. They're not highly interested in. I can work with those people too, and I can usually offer them better things than the banks can. However, I also am able to work with those people that are a little bit outside the box. They're business for self. They're divorced and have support income. Maybe they're on government disability pension. Any number of those types. They have child tax benefits. They're paying support income because of a separation. All these different unique situations that occur in people's lives that we need to be able to understand and deal with. Parents wanting to buy a home for their child, but their child doesn't really have any established credit yet, or not enough, and just being able to make all those things work for people.
I think that's what I understood about brokers, is that their world is more diverse. The situation and solutions are, I would hazard a guess and say there's not one particular transaction or mortgage or story that's going to be exactly the same as everybody that you're working with. So it's even more so than a bag of golf clubs. You got a bag of golf clubs and baseball clubs and rakes and shovels to help them fit into a space so they can have a piece of real estate or two.
And I'll be honest with you, not all mortgage brokers even want to work in that realm. There's some that strictly want to work with more of those A+ clients. That's their business model, and that's perfectly fine. And they're building their business and around that, and that's who they want to work with, and that's all well and good. It's just when they get sometimes when that mortgage broker tells them no, there's not a solution for them, the person gives up. They don't say, well, there's not a solution that I have, and you should go talk to someone else. But that's because not all mortgage brokers have access necessarily to all the same lenders either. Depending on the size and the volume of the mortgage brokerage, that can make a big difference.
So if you're going to give an unbiased recommendation as to some of the key things that people should consider in finding or identifying who a broker would be, what kind of things would you tell us to do?
You know what? For me, it's all about what's the quality of the questions they ask you when they have a conversation with you. What are they going right into? Okay, well, let's fill out an application. Let's get your information and let's see what you're pre-qualified for. Hey, that's all well and good, and we'll get there. But I need to know more about you. I need to know more about you, your family, more. What are your plans? What are your goals around buying this piece of real estate that you're trying to get a mortgage for? Are you trying to buy a primary home? Are you trying to buy a rental property? Are you trying to buy a primary home that you're going to have maybe extended family living with you? There's all these different parts and aspects. How long might they live in this home? How old are your kids, right? Are your kids young and you're trying to grow your family and you might outgrow this home? Or are your kids, getting ready to go off to university, and is there a consideration that you may downsize or need to access equity to help support your kids going through college or university? These are all, for me, important aspects of that conversation of getting to know the client and understanding more about where they are in their life. What is their relationship to money, wealth, and worth? A lot of people don't know or understand even what their relationship to money, wealth, and worth, and it comes across and I'm fortunate because of the training and things that I've done. I'm able to hear and understand triggers that people say, and being able to help them recognize those triggers often helps build for them that trust of that I understand where they're coming from. So, and that it's important that we address those so that they have the confidence in this transaction going forward.
Yeah, totally. So what you've just hit is, you spoke to my heart. I'm a big fan of as Brian Tracy would call it, be a doctor of selling. And what does that mean? Well, you kind of just explained it, but I'll summarize it. And it's basically you seek to understand really what's going on in the life of the people. So we use a model of a four phases or 4 stages. In the very first model, you spend a good chunk of the time, roughly 40% of the time, doing what you just said. Who are they? Where are they coming from? What do they want to do? What's important to them? What have they tried before? What do they like to do for fun? What frustrates the hell out of them? And then you go into finding out, well, if they could get a house or a property, what would they want to do with it? And you're doing a needs analysis. And when you've got all of that, and you've spent like now 70% of the conversation understanding them, what's important to them, then you get to where you can say, okay, so this is what I've heard. Everything you've told me, I have a few ideas and a couple of options. And then you present them. And when it comes to going ahead, they're going, so what do we need to do to get started, right? Instead of us trying to have to, do you want to go ahead with me? We don't even have to ask most of the time. Because you've earned the right. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
You're a doctor of mortgage availability.
Yeah. Yeah. I went through and I did Stephen Covey certification as well. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of the beginning with the end in mind without telling them, well, we're going to start with the end in mind here. It's all about asking questions and not just asking questions. Sorry, I'm going to rephrase that. Asking the right questions in the right way with the right understanding and intent. And so when my personal vision is everyone is living a life of abundance, as you mentioned at the beginning. And to me, that's not just about finance. For a lot of people, that can be one of the first things that comes up is finance, right? But it can be in anything. I often have have conversations with people who are just looking to help get some guidance about what can happen in 2 years from now, what can happen in 6 months from now. This is where we are right now. Is there even a possibility? And it's for them, it's about, geez, buying a home is one part, but maybe we've got some things that are messed up. What do we need to clean up to be able to get there? Even, and so for me, when in 2016 is when I began the journey around creating my vision and calling. With a mentor and friend, Alan Kahn. And he put me on this journey of finding it. It took me about 18 months to get my vision to where it is today that truly resonates for me in the way that I live my life every day in the conversations I have. And so, being able to live that in every conversation so that I can use that to cause and create wealth for people to understand what that means is huge, right? And that's what I look to do for all of my clients in whatever way that is. So, is everybody a client? No, not necessarily, because until you have a conversation, you don't know where they are and what's possible or not.
Yeah, that's so true. I had a question I want to ask you. That vaporized it was a good one. Not enough coffee maybe already for me today.
That'll come back to you.
It will. It's in the process of understanding people. I think it's their understanding or their perception of what money is or how money works. Do you find that you get into those narratives? I'm guessing you do, because you're not just talking application, vendor. You're going beyond that, is what I'm hearing.
So, there's any number of times where somebody will just say, well, what's your best rate? Well, tell me, I just want to know your best rate. And the first thing I say is, that's great. We'll get there, but I can't tell you what the best rate is for you until I know more and understand more about you and your situation, because there are different rates for different situations. And so I don't want to give you the wrong information, and then you come back and we discover the rest of the information. And then I say, well, I'm sorry, that rate doesn't apply to you because I didn't have that. Let's go through, that help me understand more about your situation so that I can offer you the right information and give you the best information possible. And to me, that, one, it helps it helps to shift people's mind. And then also asking the question, okay, well, why is rate so important to you? And helping to understand why rate. Sometimes it's really not rate. It's just about the payment. Well, I don't want to pay more than X dollars per month. Okay, great. So is it more about how much you're paying each month, or is it more about the rate? Because those are two different things, and lenders have different terms and different things. So we need to be able to understand these things so that we can help them to understand what the difference is. My advisor and coach, Richard Dolan, introduced me to what he referred to and calls the three keepers. That we all have three keepers: fear, ego, and judgment. And those are all created when we were kids. And they will come up and pop up for us at any time. For most people, if you're not aware of them, you don't even know they're popping up.
Right.
And so, when somebody starts asking about rate and talking about monthly payment, there's fear there, and maybe some ego, because my friend said they got this. And so I want to be able to at least get what they got, and hopefully I can do something to get something even a little better and say, hey, well, you know what? I managed to get right. So there is a little bit of ego that can pop up for some people in that as well. But mostly it's about fear. How much is it going to cost me? Well, let's talk about the other parts of the mortgage as well, and what those other pieces in terms of a mortgage might cost you based on what you tell me about your current family situation.
Yeah, I've been talking about the fear factor with a group of people all week. I've got a project that I'm working on, and because of the scope of the work and the situation, can't have everybody at the same time in the training program. So we divided it up to 6 sessions over the course of the week. And the fear from the consumer's point of view, the customer's point of view, comes from, and we all have it at times, like you say, it pops up, you don't even expect it, and boom, there it is. And it pops up from past experiences or perceptions of things going sideways for other people. And we're fearful that we're going to pay too much, make a bad decision. Maybe somebody's going to give us a better deal. So if we jump in on this, we miss out on that. That's this craziness that goes in our head. And if
just think of when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Without our parents realizing it, they don't even realize how they set some of these things in our brain. Hey, no, not too high, Johnny. Be careful. You're getting a little high up there.
Yeah.
Right. No. Yeah. What do you think? Money grows on trees.
We're not made of money.
We're not made of money. We can't afford that.
Yeah.
How do you? Yeah. Well, no. You should have just trained a little bit more. You should have tried a little bit harder. All these different things that end up causing and creating any one of those three things for us, right? Oh, well, no, we can't afford to buy that. We don't have the money like they have. We can't afford to buy that car, or we can't get that computer, or whatever it was.
Whatever it is,
right?
Yeah. It reminds me of a story about the young child that asked her mom, "Hey, Mom, how come you cut the roast in half?" He says, "Oh, that's a good question. Go ask your grandma." So she asked her grandma the same question. "Grandma, how come you cut the roast in half?" "Jeez, I'm not sure. Why don't you ask your great grandma?" So she goes off to great grandma, and she asked her. She said, "Why do we cut the roast in half?" That's a very good question. "Why don't you ask your great grandmother?" So she gets there, and she says, "Oh, that's a really good question. In my day, our ovens weren't very big, and we couldn't get the whole roast in, so we cut it in half." So unknowingly, we show up like our past was, even though we didn't live in the past.
Yeah.
Have you ever said something to somebody, maybe a child or a sibling, and that your dad's voice was right there? It was in you, and it just came right out. That's that. Those are what I see, that we have 10 saboteurs. You say we have 3 things. Doesn't matter what we have. We all have those things.
Yeah, exactly. It's no matter how you define them, it's knowing and understanding and being able to recognize when they are popping up for you.
Yeah.
It's those are the things that keep you out of being in action. And I have a love-hate relationship with goals,
Yeah, me too.
because there's a lot of people out there that teach goals, and they say, well, just you write your goals down, you write them, whatever, 3 times. You write them in the morning, the lunch, and the half, and you write the same 3 goals, and you write them every day so that they're right in front of you. But they don't talk about breaking it down into actions to actually move the needle. Where are you? Where do you want to go on whatever one particular part is that you're trying to achieve? So you have a point A, you know where point B is, and then being able to have a set of actions in between where you can actually measure and see that you're moving the needle.
Right.
And that's where my love-hate relationship with goals comes in that aspect. I do write out some goals in a more generic, larger fashion, but I don't revisit them every day and have them in front of me, because for me, it's more about the actions that I'm in each day that are moving me, my business, and my clients forward, to a certain extent, because of what I do. That's more important to me than simply having goals and rewriting them 3 times a day. And
That becomes route. There needs to be an emotional connection to where you want to go. So looking at, I like what you said about the, where you're at and where you want to get to. And what I find and what I work with my clients with is helping them create the dissonance between the two, current reality and where they ideally want to get to. We want to get them seeing and feeling the new vision in a more impactful way than looking at their current situation, like, oh, I can't do this, holds them back, versus what if I could do this? Just imagine what it would look like when I'm there. And out of that, I've found it in my own personal experience, as well as my clients, is the intuitive hunches or the inspirational thoughts catapult us to the action that you're talking about to get shit done. That's why in my song, the beginning, I have that language in there. It's not about swearing. It's about there's stuff to do, man. And we've got to get shit done. And if we don't control what we focus on and what we think about, we're going to get the same old. Like there's a quote out there by, I think it was Einstein, said, the definition of insanity is expecting something to be different without doing anything to make yourself better. You haven't changed your thought process and you haven't taken different steps, right?
Yeah. And that's, and that's for me, like, it's, for people who do struggle in this realm, it's about what one small action can you take that is going to be happy for you, or going to give you a new feeling that you haven't experienced very much or haven't experienced before. And then when you take that action and it's you have that positive result, remembering that you have what it felt like, and then do it again so that you can have that feeling again. And that's such an important thing that a lot of people don't. I run a high performance lab for mortgage brokers on Friday mornings, and a lot of what that is about is helping mortgage brokers to understand more about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because how can they expect to ask good questions, have good conversations, build trust with clients, and build a business if they don't even have a proper understanding about themselves and their own relationship to money, wealth, and worth, and being in action to move the needle so that they can build a business? And that's, for me, the high performance lab that I'm running for mortgage brokers is unique to that realm, because you got somebody giving somebody financial advice who, if they don't understand their own financial situation and financial story, that can come up in the conversation and create blocks that they aren't even aware are coming up. So
yeah, totally.
It's very important for people who want to take on this industry and or are already working in this industry and are finding that, well, how come my conversion rate's not very high? Well, it's likely because you just aren't being able to have the right conversations, and you might be your own self getting in the way.
Yeah, probably. I like this comment here by one of our viewers, Shander. It was kind of in agreement with what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
It's a common thread. So thank you for that comment. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, Chandler. Yeah, you got it.
We're at almost at the 30-minute mark, and we could go on forever. Who would have thought that talking about mortgages would be talking about goal setting and how they work and how they don't work? And a lot of it has to do up here, getting together in a mastermind group to supercharge and hang out and elevate, sharpening the act. I mean, you talked about a whole bunch of great things without even really, well, we did talk somewhat about mortgages. But it's more than just mortgages. It's about the relationship. It's about being a doctor of selling or solution providing. And before we end the show, what I would like to do is point people to where they can find you, which is right here. Just one more thing to bring up. This is your website. There's some cool things I've seen at the bottom of it. There's a couple of resources. Maybe you can talk about them while I'm looking.
So you'll find, there's a spade, on here. I am a Smith Maneuver mortgage professional, which in Canada means, helping people to understand how to change their mortgage from a non-tax deductible debt to a tax deductible debt. So you'll find information about that on there. My blog, I've got an extensive blog of information there on any number of different articles, fixed versus variable rates, Bank of Canada interest rate increases, you name it. There's all kinds of things on there. Benefits of working with a mortgage broker. You've got a pre-qualification there as well that you can do. It's, any number. There's, I try to make it as robust as I possibly can. And anyone that wants to have a conversation with me, they can book a free consultation with me and do that. And I'm happy to just help listen and give guidance and make whatever recommendations are going to be best for them in their situation.
That's fantastic. So the website is right there for everybody to see, whether it be now, if you're watching us live, thank you for being here. And if you're watching us on the replay, just go #replay. Let us know where you're watching in from. I'm not sure how diverse Keith is with international mortgages, but he might know somebody, even if he doesn't specialize in that.
You know what? So you know what I do? I do know some mortgage brokers in the US for sure. And we actually do have some specific lending that's available for Canadians that also want to invest in the US. So it all starts with a conversation and a question.
Yeah. Appreciate that. And thank you for being on the show and investing some of your time and sharing it with myself and our audience. It's fantastic.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you, Phil, for inviting me to be part of this conversation today. And like you said, it's amazing. We talked for 30 minutes and we only brushed the top of the conversation of mortgages. So
yeah, absolutely. Thanks again.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you.
I was inspired. It reminded me of some things in my past. I never been a mortgage broker, but I do understand some of the limitations that we were exposed to or was brought up because I used to sell new homes. And one of the restrictions there was I couldn't sell anybody else's products. We had to stay with the lenders we were involved with. With a broker such as Keith, you can actually have some diversification. And it sounds like you'd probably learn a thing or two about the thought process and maybe different approach to goal setting. So, wow, that was very informative and very wonderful from my point of view. Speaking of wonderful, I want to bring that up because one of my mentors way back when I was in the housing industry was a fellow by the name of Leland Val Vanderwall. And he always said, make sure that you act like your wonderful self. The you in wonderful is representing you for you and me for me. And you are wonderful and you are unique. So continue on your journey of your wonderfulness. Until next time, I'm Coach Phil. We'll see you on another version of the Business Renovator.
I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.